Hello, everybody. Welcome to Central Park. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Ryan, and today on August 25th, 2021, we're going to be taking a weekly walk of the Dene, which is a small landscape located along the southeast section or southeast corner of Central Park. As always, thank you so much for joining us. We know that it's still a little difficult for some people to make it to Central Park, so we want to continue making it a little bit easier by bringing the park to you. Thanks again for joining us for another installment of our 15-minute weekly walks, where today we'll be exploring the Dene Landscape. As always, just about all of the photos you're going to see were taken by myself here in Central Park over this last week. And we picked a wonderful time in the middle or towards the end of the summer to explore the Dene, which has a lot of beautiful wildflowers that are blooming right now. So we picked a wonderful time to enjoy this landscape. As always, I'm a member of the Central Park Conservancy, the people that keep the park looking clean and green. Our mission being to preserve and celebrate Central Park as a sanctuary from the pace and pressures of city life, enhancing the enjoyment and the well-being of all. We're using Zoom, which I'm sure plenty of people are familiar with. So on our walk today, feel free to say hello or drop a favorite memory of Central Park. I saw some people talking about the concert on Saturday, or at least what they enjoyed of it up until it got rained out. But if you want to share any memories, we definitely love looking through those. If you do have a question, please use the Q&A feature, and my colleague Jose is on the back end answering questions. Last thing you'll see pop up are some visitor polls that I'm going to launch throughout the tour today. Once you vote in those will disappear, and I can share the results and we can see what everybody's thinking. We are going to also be using live transcripts, which you'll see popping up now. You can, again, disable those on your toolbar if you don't want to see them, but they are helpful for a lot of people, so we are going to keep those going. All right, as we jump into our tour today, we're going to be exploring again the Dene. Dene, which is really just a Scottish word for valley. And this little landscape, this small valley, is kind of like a miniature representation of the Hudson Valley. And we'll see some native plants that can be found in the Hudson Valley, as well as cues to the landscape and really how this landscape has changed up over its existence. But of course, we're going to enjoy a nice hot summer day as we begin our walk on East 76th Street, or East 72nd Street rather. We do have a little bit of cloud cover as we begin our walk, but don't let the clouds fool you. It's still really hot and humid as we come through that heat wave. But as we enter the park on 5th Avenue and 72nd Street, we're going to be entering the park at Inventor's Gate, an area some of us have probably frequented before. As we do walk into the park, we can enjoy whatever shade we find on this nice sunny day, and we can hang a left crossing the street over here, passing by one of our visitor center kiosks, a great area to say hello, get some information as well as free maps, and maybe plan your day as you're entering the park. As we cross the street, we can make our way over towards the East Green area. The East Green is a pretty cool little area that's kind of seldom visited. It's just north of the Dene area that we're going to be exploring. And we can see on the sign it highlighted over here, it is a quiet zone in the park, which means no amplified sound, which means it's a great area for picnicking, plenty of playgrounds around, and plenty of areas to enjoy. There's also a lot of cool different trees or shrubs around. And this big mess of leaves behind that sign actually caught my eyes. Might be really it might be a tree that a lot of people overlook, but it's a really special one. This is what's known as a camperdown elm. We're probably familiar with the elm trees of the mall, the big giant American and English elms that create that almost canopy style ceiling. This camperdown elm is very different. Kind of shaggy, kind of falls down to the ground. We can see it spilling out, looking more like a shrub than a tree. As we come a little closer, we can see it makes a nice little canopy or a nice little kind of understory growth, similar to some of the beech trees, which make us feel surrounded. This tree is really cool though, because this tree is a really historic species of elms. Camperdown elms were developed back in the 1830s by grafting really a mutant Scots elm that was growing on a property. This was then really transformed into the species we have today, which is a very historic one. And you can see a few camperdown elms throughout all of New York City and in Central Park. This picture, which you'll see here, is actually a camperdown elm from Prospect Park, the sister park to Central Park, one that was created just after it by the designers Calvert Vaux and Frederick Law Olmsted. This camperdown elm is actually dating back to 1872. And it's the oldest camperdown elm that I'm familiar with here in New York City. This one again being in Prospect Park in Brooklyn. This is one of the few times I actually get to show a picture of another park. And on that subject, I actually want to launch a poll now that I want to leave up. We, of course, talk a lot about Central Park. And on some of our tours, we've talked about the creators Calvert Vaux and Frederick Law Olmsted. That latter name you may have heard before, but they went on to design countless different parks, college campuses, and various landscapes all over the United States. So I want to see if you visited another landscape or really a park in particular designed by Calvert Vaux or Frederick Law Olmsted. Of the 9 or 10 that I have on here, that is a very small handful. So I'm sure there's parks that you may recognize by name and plenty that weren't on there. But I'll leave that poll up for a little bit. I believe it is multiple choice, so feel free to vote in multiple, and we'll share that in just a little bit. As we continue and snap back to Central Park, we can really take pride in all the trees we have along this area, historic ones like Camperdown, as well as the other beautiful ones like American elms and a London plane we can see hanging back here. Along this side of the park is where one of the largest tree walks we have, the East Side Zoffness Tree Walk, exists, allowing you to identify the common and scientific name of many of these trees which are plaqued along the way. All right, enough about trees for now. We'll continue down along the East Side Green area, making our way past some nice playgrounds. This one being the East 72nd Playground. This one being reconstructed in 2015. If you joined us for some of our past weekly walks, I was mentioning how we did a big, or we are doing a big renovation project to really get all the playgrounds up into the 21st century, getting up-to-date equipment, making them safer and more accessible. And this is one that recently was restored around 2015. And it's one of several, about 5 adventure-style playgrounds that offer various types of materials for kids. As we do come down, of course, this is a great area for kids to play in playgrounds or to play along the nice side green stretches of grass we have. As we do walk down, I do like to appreciate the little aspects that we tend to overlook. This sign recalls it's a rough time, but Central Park brings out the beauty in everything. And even walking by playgrounds in different areas that were closed for so long, something magical about these things that I tend to overlook in the past. But now I think everything is getting a little bit brighter of a light shined on it, and we're appreciating it a lot more. Even like the subtle little green spaces along the right-hand side as we walk down, plenty of kids playing on the grass, or even families just enjoying the beautiful green area to picnic under. Again, look a little cloudy as we walk by, but it is a beautiful day. And of course, there's never a bad day to explore the park, and there's plenty of ways to learn about the park. This is actually part of an audio guide, a Bloomberg guide that was recently established by us, the Conservancy. If you would like to download it, you can actually pull your phone up right now and put your camera app over that, and we'll give you the link to learn more or to download this audio guide. This basically puts one of us guides into your pocket, into your cell phone, allowing you to learn about the park as you travel around. If you do want to scan that picture, you can, or if you do check the chat link, my colleague Jose will drop a link about the audio guide in a little bit. You can also find plenty more information about that on our website, or see signs like this as we walk through the park. As we do continue down, we are making our way just to the south edge of East Green and coming up into the Dene Landscape. As we do come by the Dene Landscape, of course, plenty of flowers that are popping up along the way, like these conehead flowers of some variety, as well as some anemones, rather. That was a fun one to pronounce, but a little bit of color being added to our stroll along this otherwise green landscape. And as we do make our way down, there's plenty of trees that are catching my eye, like these later blooming Coosa dogwoods. These are a little bit past their point of full bloom, but I like as they start to wilt and we get some of those red and brown colors coming in with the otherwise white leaves. But a really fun little texture and color to see as we walk down. As we do make our way down along some of the towering trees, we can come a little bit closer to the Dene Landscape, bearing just off to the left up here and taking a little bit more of an adventurous path. Whenever we get the opportunity, we want to walk on trails or these wood or dirt chip paths rather than any hard concrete. And as we start making our way down this one, we can come up to some other interesting styles of architecture, like what is, in my opinion, probably the most rustic bench I've seen in Central Park. Of course, several different varieties of rustic benches are created, but this one is pretty much just a log, almost as natural as it can get. A really cool, interesting little thing to see around this area. And we can see this one actually is one of the many plaqued benches, this one being nicknamed Pudge's Perch, which I love. but a really cool little interesting rustic piece of architecture nestled just up here on one of the highest points in the Dene Landscape. As we do walk under this little bench, we do get some rustling in the leaves above us. Can't really see because it's very dark, but that rustling was coming from a squirrel just above the way. And that squirrel is dropping a bunch of these. These we've probably seen before. I used to know them as helicopters as a kid, but these are samaras, and they're actually the fruit that is produced by maple trees, like this sycamore maple tree we're standing underneath. Inside that, you will find a little almost hairy looking pod. And inside that, you will find some of the nut meat or the seed of this samara. This is what the squirrels in the trees are munching on, peeling away these to get to that nice little kind of vegetative seed inside. Certainly a lot of protein and a fun little thing to see. If you are standing under a maple tree, you might get these dropped on your head from some hungry squirrels. But a fun little thing to check out while we're sitting on this rustic bench. As we do continue along, we can leave some of these little seeds out for the next squirrel to come out, save a little bit of time for them to unwrap it. And as we do continue down, we are coming to another cool piece of rustic architecture. As we walk along this otherwise covered path, we start to see something emerging in the back. And what we're starting to see coming out is going to be one of the coolest rustic shelters in the park. It gives us a beautiful overlook of the surrounding lower lying paths before letting us to this really whimsical, almost mountaintop tree house, you could say. As we come a little bit closer, we can see just how beautiful this is during the summer months, receiving a lot of beautiful vegetative growth on top, giving it a nice shady area for us to beat the heat. And as we come a little closer, we can see some of the beautiful flowers like these some type of trumpet vine, I believe, growing on here, but offering a beautiful different type of color from what we've seen and a nice little viney growth on top of this structure. As we come in, I always love looking at the tops. I love symmetry, so seeing that different type of wood symmetry with the sun just shining through. This is always a favorite view of mine, to just sit back and look up. And again, looking left, right, up, down, you'll always see something all around here in Central Park. What we can see in here too, I noticed something I haven't noticed in the past, a little plaque that lists this as a tree house for dreaming, coming from the Young Arts Organization. And with views like this, that is certainly spot on. This is one of the best, I think, whimsical dream locations to come. If you ever need inspiration, or if you get this area all by yourself, it is probably the best spot to read a book, until you get some traffic passing by, that is. But beautiful views all around as we sit on the bench, looking over the low-lying areas, seeing actually all the way in the very back to the right, the Balto statue, which I didn't notice before, but always something new for us to see. As we do come out of this area, I do want to actually end that poll that I launched a little while ago. And of course, no surprise, a majority of us visiting Central Park, but again, plenty of other ones. Even in Manhattan, like Morningside Park and Riverside Park. We have Prospect Park in Brooklyn and Fort Greene Park. We make it up towards Buffalo, all of the parkway systems, as well as Niagara, reservation designed by Olmsted and various others. And then of course, depending where you travel, from Detroit to Milwaukee to Louisville, and pretty much everywhere else in between, you can find something designed by Box and or Olmsted. Really cool. I have one more poll here in just a little bit, but for now, we can enjoy the floor. This again being a nice picturesque area, it commonly is one used for photo shoots as well as weddings. But again, every now and then we can come and get this place to ourselves, really being a magical experience in Manhattan. Hard to get anywhere by yourself here. As we do exit this area and leave it open for somebody else to come join, we'll make our way downhill and venture over to this rock we can see in the background. As we do make our way down the hill, we'll see again plenty of lush green as we eventually get some color booming around. I see just over to our left a little purple type of flower. This, I believe, is going to be some type of maybe like a geranium, maybe like a crane's bill. Always hard to identify specifically, but regardless of what it is, it's certainly beautiful. We can enjoy some of the various colors we're going to see as we make our way to an area that is currently exploding with life. And we'll see where that is in just a moment. As we do come around, we're coming to our final few stops. Sorry, I think I'm going to go just a little bit over on our weekly walk, but for good reason, because we have a lot of beautiful pictures to show you. And as we do come down to this area, the lower section of the Dene, we do see some little activity going on. Looks like we have a little bit of a puppet show. Plenty of entertainers down here, and especially kids-friendly features, because we're actually right only a couple hundred feet, if that, away from the children's zoo and various other children's activities here in the south end of the park. But a fun little, looks like fun little leprechaun marionette puppet that we see here as we walk up to our final stops for the tour. And as we do make our way up, we see a very different type of green on our left. We're seeing an explosion of various types of shrubs, flowers, and grasses. And as we come a little closer, we can see what that is. But first, we do want to admire some of the beauty in the surrounding landscape. And something else was catching my eye, a big rock on the right-hand side. The rock over here, a great example of the bedrock of New York, Manhattan mica schist, something we've talked about 1,000 times over 500 million years old, and various different croppings around the park show its character and its rigid structure. This again, getting a lot of its shape and carvings from a giant glacier passing through this area. And this is a favorite chunk of mine, either to look at or to climb up top and get a nice little throne type of seating like this group is up here. As we do continue along, we'll come up to the ending stops for our walk, which is going to be the Dene Slope. The Dene Slope is one of the most amazing areas in the park when it comes to natural biodiversity. This is a wildflower meadow that's about 1.25 acres in size. And these wildflower meadows are just booming and bursting with life, both green as well as plenty of color once we start making our way in. What I truly love about these types of areas is it might be a small 1 acre landscape, but each individual plant, everything in here is booming with life. It's really its own microcosm of life. For example, here we can see some milkweed. If we look at one specific cluster on one milkweed plant, we can see a few dozen little, it looks like milkweed bug nymphs forming here. But just on one small section, we can, from one picture, see about 24 different insects right there. And if we go to another section of the plant, we can see plenty of other life. What I always love about these areas in particular, we might not have huge giant hawks here all the time or really big wildlife, but there's plenty of beautiful, small, intricate things that we can see. Of course, countless different types of insects, bugs, and pollinators thrive here, like this otherwise unnoticed little beetle hanging on the edge of that milkweed leaf. As we walk along, we can see plenty of beautiful blooms besides functional plants like milkweed, which are used by many milkweed bugs and butterflies. We also see some beautiful blooms like this, which I believe is an obedient plant. A lot of interesting types of names, but really just a brush style plant. Beautiful lavender color type flowers coming from this. We're going to see different types of butterfly weed and things that, you guessed it, will attract butterflies and other pollinators. We're also going to see different types of mints, like this I believe is a clustered mountain mint. But many of these plants being all native, seeing over 50 different native species of wildflowers and grasses here in the Dene Slope. These areas, again, serve countless different pollinators, from bees and bumblebees to different types of insects and smaller bugs to various styles of butterflies and other pollinators. And coming up the trail, every way we look, we get a little bit of beauty around us. Even some surprising plants like prickly pear cactus. Prickly pear is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, the only native cactus that you'll find really along the East Coast or the Northeast Coast in particular. It does offer a beautiful flower when it blooms a little bit earlier on, but really regardless of when you see it, it's a fun, interesting discovery. And visiting the Dene Slope during the summer is really one of the best times to come here. A lot of people will tell me that they visited the Dene Slope in spring and they didn't see anything. And that makes sense because a lot of us assume that the spring is the main time for blooms, but it's really not. Spring is going to be the main time we see a lot of trees coming into bloom and a lot of early different plants and flowers. But really, if you're coming to New York or really anywhere in the Northeast, the main time you want to see flowers in color is going to be around August. Really towards the middle or the end of summer is when you're going to get the massive boom of wildflowers coming in. So visiting butterfly gardens, areas like the Dene and other wildflower meadows are best done in August. You can save cherry blossoms and some of the ornamental trees for the spring. But as we come along to the top of the Dene Slope, we can come to one of the many rustic benches throughout the park, one of about only one or two in the Dene Slope that give us a nice little spot to enjoy the view. From up here, we can overlook that rock being a little bit higher than those people sitting on it, as well as viewing some of the other landscapes we came from, like in the far back, just clouded by the trees, that Dene Summer House, or the wooded rustic shelter. We can enjoy, of course, the view overlooking all those lower lying paths, as well as seeing plenty of beautiful pollinators flying around. Most of the butterflies being a little too quick for me to get pictures of, but we can pretend or believe that they're there. As we come along, we'll make our way to our final stop in the Dene. As we do come to this area, I do want to launch one last poll as we're coming towards the end. Second poll is going to be a little bit more Central Park related. I asked you before if you visited other parks around. I hope you've been getting around to other parks, Central Park included. But I do want to ask if anybody on the walk has had the chance, or there's some people have, but see who has had the chance to visit Central Park so far. When I say recently, we'll say maybe in the past 2 years. I know recently is kind of a blur now, but I want to see if anybody has had the opportunity to really make it into the park. Whether you've made it in the park and seen this stuff in person, or if we're bringing it to you, we're really happy that you're joining us and experiencing the park. No matter how you experience it, there's really no wrong way to do so. And as we come up in the Dene, we'll come to the highest point, the most east point within the Dene Slope. Coming up to this backside, seeing some more fully bloomed butterfly weed, which offers just such a beautiful, like scarlet orange type of burning color. It reminds me of that really late, or really early, I should say, sunrise in summer, where we get just that burning red or burning orange sun coming up. But certainly a lot of color as we walk through the Dene, with just too many flowers to show. There's only about half of the flowers that we saw in bloom. So if you do have the opportunity, I highly recommend coming to the Dene Slope area to see some of these blooms in person yourself. As we do make our way over, we'll come to a smoother patch of Manhattan schist. And it's important to remember the landscape we're walking on, the Dene Slope, is really just a meadow built on top of this really rocky incline. This area was only completed in 2017, and it was at one point a really decrepit, ugly, eroded hillside. Thanks to the hard work of a lot of our Conservancy staff, this was completed around 2017. And what really makes the Dene Slope so special is that it takes about 3 to 5 years for a wildflower meadow to really secure itself in. So we're coming up to about 4 or almost 5 years of the Dene Slope being established, which means we're really getting a more natural, functional Dene Slope and landscape now. And these areas are so important because while they might seem seemingly uneventful during certain times of the year when there aren't obvious flowers blooming, they're extremely important. And these areas are really unique because they change up each year. Unlike gardens like the Conservatory Garden where they're planned, areas like this really get naturally pollinated and planted with natural wind dispersal of seeds and animals spreading them and kind of choosing the layout of the meadow, which I think is one of the coolest things for any landscape here in Central Park. All right, as we wrap up, I know I've gone a little bit over. I want to thank you for your patience. I just want to take one more moment to really appreciate where we are. And the Dene Landscape is an amazing one because one step south and we can see some of the towering buildings of Central Park South. A very immediate reminder of where we are in the middle of one of the busiest and most crowded cities on earth. Beyond that, though, we do have plenty of escapes. And as I do wrap up this poll, I do see a lot of people have had the chance to visit often, or at least a couple people have had the opportunity to visit once or twice in the past year or two, and some people that haven't made it just yet. But again, we do want to thank you for joining us on these walks so we can help bring the park to you a little bit. And of course, there's plenty of opportunities upcoming that you will be able to, I'm sure, get to the park. But even in the meantime, I encourage you to explore different parks, explore a park nearby you, really get out and appreciate any of these parks. Because no matter the park, there's certainly going to be a much needed escape. And with views like this, we do get a reminder of what lies just outside of those park boundaries. But in most cases, like where we're standing right here, all we have to do is take one quick step around us to be completely immersed in nature and forget that all of that is even there. With this last view, we can take in a beautiful view with no buildings, something so rare to see in Manhattan, but one that we luckily get here in Central Park. Again, I want to thank everybody so much for allowing us to share these views with you and allow you to allow us to be able to really bring the park to life through these pictures. I do again encourage you, if you get the opportunity, to join, to visit the park and to get to the Dene Slope, especially during this month of August, beginning of September. We will catch a lot of those beautiful flowers in bloom. Even if you don't catch the flowers in bloom, take a quick moment, stop and look at some of the leaves, and I guarantee you'll see a lot more than you would have even imagined was there. But rambled on long enough. Again, thank you everybody so much for joining us. This is the route that we have taken today. And of course, we have plenty more routes coming up. We do have another weekly walk again coming up next Wednesday, as well as the return of in-person tours and plenty of other virtual programs that will be continuing, like the Northwoods tour, which we just had our first one of the other week, and we'll be having another one relatively soon. If you do check the chat boxes, my colleague Jose will share some links for upcoming programs. And I will, of course, keep this open for a few more minutes to answer any questions that you might have. But thank you again so much for joining us. As you know, the park needs us and we need the park. What is it about Central Park that you need the most? Let us know with the hashtag the park needs us. And we'll feature it on our social media channels. Or you can share a favorite memory or picture on any one of the social media sites and tag us at Central Park NYC. Thank you again, everybody, so much. We'll see you very soon. So from all of us here at the Central Park Conservancy, stay safe, be well, and see you soon.